Be honest. When's the last time you had a homemade meal? We get it. Between meetings, workout classes, and the kids' after-school sports, who's got time to cook? That's where HelloFresh comes in. No matter how busy you get, HelloFresh has everything you need to get an easy, home-cooked meal on the table. With flavor-packed recipes like Parmesan herb-crusted salmon, you'll be filling your kitchen with the cozy aromas of a homemade meal in no time. So go ahead, try HelloFresh. It's homemade, made easy. Learn more at HelloFresh.com.
Welcome back to another edition of the Disney Dish Podcast with Jim Hill. It's me, Len Testa, and this is our show for the week of Schmurz Day, January 6th, 2025. Happy New Year, everyone. On the show today, news, including what to do now that Big Thunder Mountain is closed, plus surveys. And in listener questions, grammar is a tool the man uses to keep you down. Then in our main segment, Jim looks at the theme park music of George Wilkins. EPCOT fans rejoice. We'll include demo tracks that most people haven't heard. Let's get started by bringing in the man who's organizing the first ever Lucky Charms cereal convention for later this year. More information on Leprechaun 2025 will be available soon. It's Mr. Jim Hill. Jim, how's it going?
Len, there is a lot that people
I saw your video. You looked up like, oh, God.
No, that's it exactly. There is so much to learn at this event. Lucky Charms, very storied history. First introduced by General Mills back in 1964. This breakfast treat, which consists of pieces of pulverized oats mixed with multicolored marshmallows, changed numerous times over the past 6 decades. Original lineup.
Really?
Yep. Original lineup of marshmallows was...
Of mushrooms?
Mushrooms. Well, the 1960s version, Len. Okay?
It was a different time.
It was a different time,
kids.
But yeah, original assortment of marshmallows. What was it? Pink heart, yellow moons, orange stars, and green clovers.
Green clovers, yeah.
There we go. But they actually started expanding the lineup in 75 with blue diamonds. And
Blue diamonds, right.
there we go. Now, Len, there are 8 different marshmallow shapes in each bowl of Lucky Charms.
Okay, what are the new ones? I feel like this is a new Crayola color. Go ahead.
Well, more to the point, Len, if you prefer to remove the pulverized pieces of oats entirely, and by the way, doesn't that sound appetizing? Pulverized pieces of oats? But now you can get the marshmallow-only version of Lucky Charms, which, by the way, General Mills introduces one time only, short time, limited available in 2017, and was so overwhelmed by people running to the stores trying to get this that it's now a regular feature.
Wait, hold on. There's a Lucky Charms Oops Only Marshmallows?
Oh, yes.
But is it marketed as a breakfast cereal?
It sits there right on the shelf there, or as us diabetics like to call it, death in a bowl. All right. So
I love you, America. Nothing else. That's all I'm saying.
There we go. One final note here. The mascot of this General Mills product, of course, is the Leprechaun. But over the years, Len, he has had other names. He was LC Leprechaun, as in with the LC standing for Lucky Charms. And then there was Sir Charms. So maybe he's also the king of the leprechauns. I don't remember seeing him in Darby O'Gill, but you know.
Let's go back and rewatch.
There we go. 1959, Walt Disney production. But
there are 8 kinds of marshmallow now? I gotta go back and look.
Yeah. And like I said, I see this in the cereal aisle and look away because it's just
No. You walk right down to the muesli.
There we go.
That's where you need to be.
There we go.
All right, Jim, let's do a shout out to our subscribers. Thanks to everyone who subscribes to the show over at patreon.com/JimHillMedia, including Ethan K., Auntie Orville, I see what you did there, Holly, Brian Gauguin, Joy Wright, Karen Pearsall, and Amanda Mathau. Jim, these are the Disney chefs working on a slew of Eastern Mediterranean recipes, including pashtita, shakshuka, kebabs, and Turkish delight that accommodate all kinds of dietary needs. Look for their new kiosk, Shalom Halal, to open at Food and Wine 2025. True story.
Oh, I want that to be a true story. Man.
Shalom Halal.
Shalom Halal. Oh,
it was funny because I was walking down the street in New York, and I thought of one of our listeners, Jonathan Shar, who is a Baltimore Ravens fan, so we correspond during football season. And I was trying to think of like a funny joke for Jonathan, and I was like, Shalom Halal. That's it. Then I needed a riff on that. Anyway, on to the news. Hey folks, it's a new year and Disney Dish has a new sponsor. The Disney Dish News is sponsored by DVC Rental Store. Have you ever dreamed about staying in deluxe accommodations at Disney for a fraction of the cost? If so, the DVC Rental Store connects guests with incredible savings on Disney Vacation Club resorts. Whether you're a DVC member looking to rent points or a guest who's looking to stay in style, the DVC Rental Stores offers a seamless process for both. And don't forget, they also offer exciting point swaps for unforgettable experiences like cruises and adventures. Check out our brand new sponsor at dvcrentalstore.com. All right, on to the news. Jim, Disney announced a free dining offer return for Walt Disney World for 2025. So book now through February 10th, 2025. The rules are 3 nights in a Disney hotel with a 3-day park hopper. Values and moderates get the quick service dining plan. Deluxes get the standard dining plan. The dates are May 27th to June 26th. Then we skip some time for July 4th. Picks up again July 7th to August 6th. 2025. Jim, I happen to note that May 27th is around the time something else is happening in Orlando in May. What is it? It's on the tip of my tongue. I can't remember.
It's
not Comic-Con. What is it?
No, the opening of course, Epic Universe up the street, the fourth Universal Orlando Park, if you count Volcano Bay. But yeah, the notion that I guess Disney begrudgingly knows people will be coming to town. And I guess the notion of, all right, get them to stay at our place, but drive down the street to go check out the new park. But what do you make of the gap there between the 26th and July? I mean, obviously, 4th of July weekend, it's already a heavily attended, very popular set of dates around the July 4th weekend. But that's fascinating. That stretch 27th through August 6th. Wow.
Yeah, May 27th through, so basically all of summer. Yeah, I think it's definitely designed to fit into the opening of Epic Universe. The other thing is that Disney looks like they've announced some discounts today, and we'll talk about it on next week's show because I haven't had a chance to do the numbers. But they've offered they put out some resort offers here with slightly better than usual discounts for annual pass holders. So normally annual pass holders get like 30 to 35% off of hotels. And I think there are some dates in 2025 where it's now 40%. Now, granted, that's 40% off of a number that keeps going up every year, right? So there's that, but still.
Yeah, but at the same time, also understanding that, your annual pass holders approach the parks and their experiences at the parks differently than, of course, your once-in-a-lifetime Disney World visitors or the folks that come back every 3 to 5 years.
Right, and we've been talking for years now about how Disney's management is really looking to bring those once every few years people into the parks more and really use annual pass holders and locals as a sort of like fill in the gaps.
There we go.
Scenario. So for them to entice the annual pass holders more means there might be a drop in those people coming in from out of town. We'll see.
Wow, Len. You said the quiet part out loud. The annual pass holders have become the styrofoam peanuts of Disney when they pack the parks. It's all right, put another handful of them. Offer them 5% more of dining.
It is. It's true.
Woof.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm saying what it is. I'm not assigning value to any of the statements. I'm just saying what the statements are.
Okay. All
right. In other news around the Magic Kingdom, the Big Thunder Mountain closed today, actually, for a year-long refurbishment. Jim, we don't even have a reopening date, do we?
No, we do not.
And there's already a huge crane on site for the refurbishment. So the question then is, Jim, what do you do for Lightning Lane when Big Thunder Mountain is closed? So I did some research. Would you like to hear it?
Absolutely.
Okay, so here's the background, or the thing that's motivating this. Big Thunder Mountain is one of the 3 most popular attractions in the Magic Kingdom, at least as far as I can tell. We get more survey ratings for Big Thunder Mountain than almost any other Magic Kingdom attraction, except for Pirates and Haunted Mansion. So it's in the top 3.
Okay.
Also, 4 of the attractions near Big Thunder Mountain are also in the top 10 most popular. Again, that's Mansion and Pirates. But also, Jim, It's a Small World and Jungle Cruise.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
Fair. So you'd think that with Big Thunder Mountain closed, Lightning Lane demand would increase for those 4, Mansion, Pirates, Small World, and Jungle Cruise, almost automatically, right?
Okay.
And so the question then is, what is the Lightning Lane demand for those attractions? So I asked our friends over at Stand by Skipper, the service that will book Lightning Lanes for you, and they say Big Thunder Mountain is actually the number one most requested Lightning Lane. That tells you how much demand there is for that. The top 5 are Big Thunder, Peter Pan, Space Mountain, Tiana's Bayou Adventure, Winnie the Pooh, and Haunted Mansion. All right. So Big Thunder Mountain is in Group 1 of the Magic Kingdom's Lightning Lane Multipass, along with Jungle Cruise, Peter Pan, Space Mountain, and Tiana's. I think there's a chance, Jim, and tell me if I'm crazy here, there's a chance that Disney moves Tiana to a standby queue once Big Thunder goes offline, because that'll help. Here's my rationale, right?
Okay.
If it's only virtual queue over there, then the only people going to that part of Frontierland, which includes Pecos Bills, would be the people who have reservations or have bought Lightning Lane, which means foot traffic will be limited to only 1,500 people an hour.
Whoa.
But to improve foot traffic, you would put a standby line in there so people could walk over and see what the line looks like. And that gets you more merch.
Wow. I'm going to be fascinated to see if that comes to pass, because again, that's an old school Disney move, as in somebody actually had a conversation with quick service and retail and heard what they said about, no. We need actual people to walk in this direction. You need to help us here. So,
yeah, that's what I'm thinking. So, like, because if they don't, right, then it's only 1,500 people an hour that need to walk over to that part of Frontierland.
Yeah.
Why else would you go there?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think moving Tiana's to standby would at least increase the foot traffic over there. We'll see what happens. Anyway, so Lightning Lanes run out in approximately this order, recently anyway. Jungle Cruise goes first, then Tiana's, then Pirates, then Big Thunder, then Buzz, then Pooh.
Okay.
And then the last thing I looked at was how much time do you save using the Lightning Lane at various attractions versus using standby. So Space Mountain's number 1. You save an average of a little more than half an hour using Lightning Lane there. Then Jungle Cruise and Peter Pan are just under half an hour, like 27 minutes each. Big Thunder Mountain 21, Mansion 16, Pooh, and then Under the Sea, amazing, is 15 minutes, and then Buzz is 14 minutes. So if you combine all of that, so like location, Lightning Lane demand, run out times, and time savings, here's what I think. Your number 1 choice for a substitute should be Space Mountain. In colder months, your second choice should be Jungle Cruise. And then in warmer months, Tiana's Bayou Adventure, or take your chances with either virtual queue, or if there's a standby line, do that. And then Peter Pan's Flight would be my third choice.
Those all seem solid. I mean, I have to admit that the Jungle Cruise queue sometimes, especially as you mentioned during the colder months, just the irony is you're looking out at all of this tropical scenery and freezing to death. So, yeah.
Did I tell you that I rode Jungle Cruise for an entire day last month?
No, really?
Yeah.
Okay. And you lost a bet? What?
No. We were trying to plot the curve of the wait time. Like when do crowds really start to build up at Jungle Cruise? Yeah, so 3 of us rode over and over again for an entire day. Yeah, the number of puns I heard, Jim.
Oh,
yeah, it should be a workplace injury. There should be an OK category.
Okay.
Jungle Cruise puns. Anyway, actually, it was great. Some of the skippers were fantastic. So. All right. Speaking of Lightning Lane Premier Pass, Jim, I noted that over the Christmas holiday, Premier Passes for the Magic Kingdom sold out for 10 straight days. December 25th through January 3rd. Also, they sold out at EPCOT the 21st, 28th, 29th, and 31st. Hollywood Studios, 27th, 28th, 29th, 30th, and 31st. And then Animal Kingdom on the 29th and 30th. So, and that tells me, Jim, that... so here's the unusual thing. The unusual thing is crowds were down in Walt Disney World as compared to 2023. At least if you look at crowds through posted wait times, which is how we do it.
Okay.
The Magic Kingdom, on our scale of 1 to 10 crowds, did not hit a 9. And that's the first time since we measured crowds going back to 2010, other than the pandemic, that's ever happened.
Wow.
Yeah. So wait times were down 13% at the Magic Kingdom year over year. Epcot down 22%, which is kind of surprising considering Test Track is closed. Hollywood Studios down 17%, Animal Kingdom down 14%, Universal Studios Florida up 4%, and then Islands of Adventure up 1%.
Wow. But at the same time, they sold out of Premium Lightning Lane. I mean,
Well, that's the thing. So they sold out at lower crowd levels. And
yeah.
you and I talked about this over the summer. We talked to some people in the financial sector who thought Disney had room to raise Lightning Lane prices during peak periods. And that seems to be true. So even with moderate to moderately busy crowds, people still bought Lightning Lanes to skip the lines.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Wow. That is just fascinating. And more to the point, just belies the whole thing of, oh my God, Disney is price gouging, and that narrative's out there. And it's like, be that as it may, people, especially at these times of years, are willing to pay that premium price. Holy cow.
Yeah, we're talking about, nearly $400 per person for that Premier Pass at the Magic Kingdom, and sold out every day.
That's amazing.
I'm expecting 25 to 50% increases in Lightning Lane prices in 2025. I think that's really one of the few places where they can actually substantially raise prices and still get those prices. Like, I don't think they can do that with food. They can't do that with tickets.
No.
I don't think they can do it with hotels. But Lightning Lane, I think, is the one area where there's potential to make more money.
And just the whole notion of, are you willing to pay for that level of convenience on your once in a lifetime Disney vacation? And, for a number of folks, absolutely.
Absolutely. Right. That's true. All right, Jim, on to surveys. Our friend Jeff wrote in with a new EPCOT survey and had two interesting questions on it. The first one, I'm going to go on a little rant about. The question is this: please tell us if you experienced any of the following holiday activations during your EPCOT visit on December whatever. Okay. A quick note to Disney survey people. Nobody in the general public uses the word activation like that. Be consistent and use words people understand. And here's the thing that kind of grinds my gears.
Yep.
This survey question refers to them as activations. In the same question, it also refers to it as an offering. So if you look at the EPCOT holiday tree, right? There's a question about that. It uses the phrase activation and offering in the same question, but then the question right after that asks about holiday decorations. Then another one after that talks about displays, and then we're back to offerings again. So think about the mental connections that someone reading this has to do. By holiday tree, they mean Christmas tree, right? And then an activation must be some sort of decoration. An offering is some sort of thing I saw that's not a decoration. I mean, people know what decorations and what displays are, so use those words, right?
You're not wrong. More to the point, Disney always writes surveys with some sort of result in mind, and the notion that you're using a language like activation, which already puts your survey taker at a distance to the effect, what's an activation?
Activation, yeah. Drives me crazy.
Okay.
Anyway, the fun questions are this. You previously indicated that you visited Communicore Hall during your trip to the EPCOT International Festival of the Holidays. Please indicate how much you agree or disagree with the following statement. Current offerings within Communicore Hall are a valuable use of this space.
Oh.
Jim, this is where I think the survey needs to allow audio recordings of responses, because you and I laughed, and I think that's what everyone would do. It would just be like a little smorgasbord of how people laugh when they read things. We would get all kinds of emotions.
Absolutely.
There.
I mean, the Communicore Hall is now the Disney World equivalent of the underfunded rec room in the basement. But we're going to get around to decorating that eventually. Don't worry about it. Enjoy the ping pong table. It's like
all the charmant ambiance of an interstate restroom.
There we go. Oh my God.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Oh, God bless you guys for even asking the question, but whatever. Okay, that's fine. All right, on to listener questions. Jim, every single listener we have wrote in to say the following, and I quote, "Bluey's a girl."
There we go. Sorry.
And then lots of you, sorry about that. Yeah. but I did watch a bunch of episodes. And lots of you wrote in with lists of your favorite episodes. Melinda says, I must recommend Family Meeting as a wonderful episode to start with, and Relax is another favorite episode of hers. And then our friend Chris Cox, the mind reader who can't read minds, adds these. Fairies, Season 1, Episode 30. Bumpy and the Wise Old Wolfhound, Season 1, Episode 32. Copycat, Season 1, Episode 38. Sleepy Time, Season 2, Episode 9. Flat Pack, Season 2, Episode 24. Library, Season 2, Episode 30. By the way, Jim, you said there were like 50 episodes. There's like 50 episodes a season of these things.
Yeah.
There's like 150 episodes.
I again stand corrected. Do not step into the bluey space unless you've done your research. Also, I just a quick side note here. This list that our good friend Chris Cox has prepared is really kind of an interesting inside look into how he spends his time when he's not on stage.
He's got 2 young kids. Yeah.
There we go. Okay.
But the fervor with which people sent in their favorite episodes, like I was telling someone, like the last time people talked about individual episode recommendations like this, like that I remember, was Breaking Bad. Yeah, and this has way less meth production.
Well, I was about to say, and you won't hear Bluey say, I'm the one who knocks. So, you know.
Exactly.
Okay.
All right, a couple of other episodes. Facey Talk, Season 3, Episode 24. The Show, Season 3, Episode 34. And then Relax, Season 3, Episode 40. All right. So 2 people, both Melinda and Chris, recommend Relax. So we'll go with that. All right. Gail Shorts wrote in to ask this question. Can you explain the history of Schmurz Day to new listeners, and how do you spell it? All right. So Schmurz Day is a mashup of the names for all of the days of the week. The first time we said it on the show was, I think, April 20th, 2020 during the pandemic. And it started off as a commentary on how everything was closed at the time. We're all sitting at home with nowhere to go. So the days all kind of blended together. And then all of you, the listeners, began to use it in emails and on social media like, oh, I listen to the show every Schmurz Day when it comes out. Or I'll be in Disney World from Schmurz Day, June 4th, through Schmurz Day, June 10th, right? As for spelling, I'm going to point out the view of my best friend since 5th grade, Andy Lippman, who once told an English teacher we had that as long as the correct meaning was conveyed, syntax was merely social convention that could change over time. I refer to that as Lippman semantics for you linguists out there. And if there are any young people listening, you have my permission to tell your teachers that lessons on spelling and noun-verb agreement are tools of capitalist oppression. And Jim, this would make a wonderful Calvin and Hobbes strip.
It would. Somebody call Bill Watterson. Okay.
Exactly. All right. Last email is from Mike Sano, who writes in with this detail about the electric palm trees in Tomorrowland. Jim, I know this is one of your favorite details.
It is.
So Mike says the mechanical palm tree is not malfunctioning. The batteries or coconuts have been harvested, so it's in off mode. This is actually the backstory. The coconuts are present on the open trees, and they're outside what was formerly the Tomorrowland power plant, and the trees were a new take on solar energy. And Mike's source is Sean Slater, former Imagineer, who actually did a really detailed breakdown on Tomorrowland's backstory, and I've included a link to that in the show notes. Wow, how about that?
I love that story, and I my only caveat is, again, I literally had Paul Osterhout, the senior designer on the new Tomorrowland back in '94. We were standing behind the construction fence, and he was the one who told me, "Oh, that one's malfunctioning. Look right there." So it's just I love the fact
could be both
that even when the guy in charge was wrong.
Yeah.
So I love that.
Well, you know, the more information gets conveyed up one level of hierarchy, the more you lose, right? It's a game of telephone.
There we go.
All right, folks, we're going to take a quick commercial break. When we come back, Jim tells us about the remarkable career of Disney composer George Wilkins. We'll be right back.
My dad works in B2B marketing. He came by my school for career day and said he was a big ROAS man. Then he told everyone how much he loved calculating his return on ad spend. My friends still laugh at me to this day.
Not everyone gets B2B, but with LinkedIn, you'll be able to reach people who do. Get a $100 credit on your next ad campaign. Go to linkedin.com/results to claim your credit. That's linkedin.com/results. Terms and conditions apply. LinkedIn, the place to be, to be.
The last thing you want to hear when you need your auto insurance most is a robot with countless irrelevant menu options. Which is why with USAA Auto Insurance, you'll get great service that is easy and reliable, all at the touch of a button. Get a quote today. Restrictions apply.
And we're back. All right, Jim, we've talked about this episode for a month, and I'm super excited because we're going to include some theme park music as we go along, too.
Yeah.
Why don't you get us started here?
Just for starters, we lost George Wilkins late last year. And if you're a regular listening to Disney, that name likely rings a bell. George's name came up a lot in, our recent story about Sunny Eclipse. I mean, George was the guy who composed and arranged all 8 of the songs that are featured in the 20-minute long lounge act that the animatronic entertainer does in the Cosmic Rays of the Magic Kingdom. Likewise, George's name, again, came up a lot in those Country Bear shows that Len and I did last fall. The ones that talked about the holiday overlay shows that the managers did at Grizzly Hall back in the mid-'80s, Country Bear Christmas Special, and Vacation Hoedown, which sadly have been discontinued stateside, but you can still see over at Tokyo Disneyland. Anyway, Davey Fighton and Michael Sprout, guys who came up with the idea for the show, and then reprogrammed all of the animatronic figures, but it was George, Mr. Wilkins, who arranged the music for both of the Bear shows and also wrote the original numbers that Henry and his friends sing over the course of those shows. And
oh, really?
Yeah. And George, he had a lengthy career at Disney, almost as long as Jim Schulz, who was with the company, I want to say, for 32 years. Mr. Wilkins started with the Mouse back in 79 and finished his stint with Disney by working. Well, hang on. George liked to tell a story. It's 1964, Len, and he's working in Flushing Meadow on the New York World's Fair. Now, not for Disney, mind you. At this point, Mr. Wilkins is an independent contractor. He's a composer, arranger for hire, and having worked for a lot of big-name acts in the entertainment industry, like Perry Como and Patty Page, as well as for Rankin Bass, the production company that made the stop-motion version of Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, which actually, by the way, would make its debut on television that same year, 1964, and then go on to become a holiday perennial. But anyway, given his resume, George is in demand. He's the guy you hire if you want a jingle for your commercial or a theme song for your TV show. And Wilkins has a couple of clients who have shows and exhibits at the 64 World's Fair. So just as the fair is opening in April of that year, 64, he's over in Flushing Meadow, dotting I's and crossing T's. He's making sure that all the stuff that he wrote for the fair for his clients actually sounds good. And George was very hands-on. I mean, he would literally go behind the scenes at, for example, an attraction and do the grunt work, like repositioning the speakers or simply turning up the music. All right. So anyway, Mr. Wilkins is at the fair that day. And what he's hearing from people on the ground there in Flushing Meadow is like, wow, have you seen that Disney thing, the Small World show? And so George, before he goes home to Manhattan, he walks over to the Pepsi-Cola booth, he buys a ticket, he climbs out in a boat, and 20 minutes later he climbs out of the boat and says, man, I want to do something like that someday. And Len, just for a moment, you have to think of this. You have to think of it's a Small World from a music arranger's point of view. I mean, you're starting with a song that's written by the Sherman Brothers, which to hear George talk, and by the way, he became very good friends with Dick and Bob over the years. They worked together on a lot of projects at Disney. He said, what was great about a job like that is the Sherman Brothers always wrote songs that had good, strong chords, which made it easy to support keychains and counter melodies. And
I wonder what key is It's a Small World in?
Oh,
it's got to be a major key, but what? Now I want to know what.
Well, that's the thing. He was one telling me about, and that's the thing. You didn't want to get George Wilkins talking about keychain, keychain, because again, suddenly it's do you go with the E and it's just he loved that stuff. You could get into the weeds really, really, really fast.
It's in C major, the everyman's.
There
key.
we go.
All right.
There we go.
All right. By the way, so in the John Mellencamp song. I Need a Lover.
Yeah.
John Mellencamp says that if you remember the intro to this song, it's the same riff repeated like 10 times in 10 different keys. And John Mellencamp says this is the song where his band learned about key changes. It's always stuck with me. Good.
Okay.
All right.
Okay, so again, remember, overall creative conceit of A Small World, that with each scene you pass, you encounter a new country and its culture.
And its culture. Yeah.
So, for example, the musical soundtrack of A Small World repeatedly mutated to reflect this reality. So you're floating by Scotland, suddenly bagpipes are added to the mix. Or you're floating by Greece and suddenly you hear the very same tune, only now you've got pan flute. And anyway, so George thinks to himself climbs out of the boat back in 64. Wow, I bet that would be fun to work on.
And until it's your 50th time hearing the song, and
that's it
now
exactly.
you're on the xylophone.
Right.
Yeah. All right.
Jump ahead 40 years. And the very last thing that George Wilkins works on at WDI before he retires is Hong Kong Disneyland's version of It's a Small World. And to hear George talk, project not fun. Challenging, yes, but honestly, one of the most ambitious things the guy ever did. But and then when you take into consideration that George, he says that one of the most challenging things I've worked on. George wrote 17 different versions of "It's Fun to Be Free" for the World of Motion Pavilion at EPCOT.
Do you happen to know what the 17 versions are? Because I have them.
I have so many. In fact, Len was asking me about this in advance, and to be honest, because again, I'm a student of comedy, I love the Spike Jones version. George had worked so long in the music industry when he finally came to work at Disney that this was like breathing to him. You need 17 different varieties? Sure. I'm the Baskin Robbins of music.
Exactly. Here's the same thing 20 different ways. So the versions that I have, I'll list all 17 here. There's a 1960s beach version. Mm-hmm. There's a 1920s version. Mm-hmm. There's Broadway, Charleston, Cool Jazz, Da Vinci, Dixieland, Egyptian, Greek or Roman, Hoedown, Jazz Waltz, Kazoo, God Bless America,
there we go.
Old West, Piano, Picnic, Soft Shoe, and Tack Piano.
And again, just you need varieties. I can give you varieties.
It's fun to be free, to be on the move, to go anywhere, with never a care to do all you wanted to do. It's fun to be free.
This is why I love sharing the George Wilkins career, the story of his career this time of year, because look, it's early January, and this is the start of a new year, and this is when people like to they get a chance to begin again. I want to think about making some changes in life and readjusting their goals. And
yep.
But at the same time, if you're a young person and you get frustrated when you look where you are in life and think, oh man, I'm nearly 30 and I'm not nearly where I thought I would be in my career right now, and maybe it's not ever going to happen for me. And it's like, to which I say, oh, pal, George Wilkins didn't even get in the door at Disney till he was 45.
Really?
Yep. And in fact, his big break didn't come till one of George's contemporaries had a bad break, as in a bunch of broken bones, Len.
Ooh.
Okay. All right. So let me explain. It's now the mid to late 1970s, and the development of Epcot Center is very much in flux. I mean, for example, the lumber company that had previously agreed to sponsor the land pavilion for Future World has just dropped out. And now the company is scrambling to chase down a new sponsor for this pavilion. And anyway, Buddy Baker, who, again, music maestro of the Mouse House, who was also writing herd on all of the music for Epcot Center at that time, knew that Disney had a meeting with Kraft Foods coming up soon. And he also had a demo in hand for the Future World Pavilion's proposed theme song, which, of course, was Listen to the Land. And Buddy knew it would probably be helpful in that pitch meeting if the executives from Kraft could hear a polished, professionally produced sounding version of Listen to the Land. And what Buddy had in mind for a take on this Epcot theme song was something very Pete Seeger-ish with a kids chorus behind it, and which got Buddy thinking, well, I always liked the sound of the Doodletown Pipers, and that was a music group in the late 50s, early 60s, very much in the style of Mitch Miller, big, mixed, male and female chorus. They did family-friendly fare that leaned into Americana, and George Wilkins helped found that group back in the 50s. Not only that, but he wrote many of the arrangements that the Doodletown Pipers performed. So Buddy thought, that's kind of the sound I think executives at Kraft's would respond to. They're very clean, wholesome Doodletown Pipers kind of sound. So let me see if George Wilkins is available. And George was. And Wilkins takes the demo to Listen to the Land, and inside of a day, Len, turns around just the sort of arrangement that Buddy Baker is looking for.
Really?
Yeah.
Listen to the Land.
Yeah. Okay, under normal circumstances, Len, one-time assignment. Wilkins would probably move on to his next gig, working for some other client, except that night, as Buddy Baker is driving home from work, he gets in a really bad car accident on the Ventura Freeway.
Oh.
Yep.
Really?
Yep. Car first...
I didn't know this.
Yep. First hits the center divider and then bounces back into traffic, hitting another car. Buddy's car is totaled, and Baker himself winds up in the hospital for weeks recovering from all sorts of broken bones. And after he's been in there a couple of days, in fact, I want to say Baker actually wound up convalescing at St. Joseph's, the hospital that's directly across from Disney Studios.
Oh. I'm sure people didn't walk over and happen to say, hey, you can hold a baton and conduct from here, right?
Well, it's so interesting you say that, because one of Buddy's visitors at this time is actually Ron Miller, Walt's son-in-law, who by this point is one of the senior executives at the studio. And Len, this is not exactly a social call. And again, just want to remind folks, Buddy Baker isn't just handling the music for the Disney theme parks at this point. He's handling the scores for a lot of Disney's TV shows and the
movies, everything. He's super active, yeah.
And this is the thing. He's now going to be laid up for weeks, if not months. And that really concerns Ron Miller, because this is potentially going to put a very serious crimp in the company's creative input. So Miller, as he's sitting down next to Buddy's bed,
now's a great time to talk about succession planning.
Well, no, that's it exactly. I'm going to join these. It's this really kind of stark question. It's like, what's going to happen at the company if you had died in this accident, Buddy? Is there anyone else who knows how to do what you do? And Baker's response is, I don't think so, Ron. Oof. And very just as Len just said, it's like, I think it's time we started talking about a protege. And that's the thing. Is there somebody you think if we get in a situation like this again, is there somebody that Disney could maybe recruit, some young kid? And to Baker said, look, no young kid can do what I do. But then he thinks about the Living with the Land demo and the arrangement that George Wilkins had turned around in a day and how great it sounded. And Buddy said, well, look, there is George Wilkins. He's been around for a while, and he's definitely got the skills. So maybe we could persuade him to come work for Disney. And now, if you just step away for a second, take a look at this from George Wilkins' side of the equation. This is a guy who's been working professionally, Len, in the music industry for a quarter of a century.
Yeah.
But he's been going from gig to gig to gig this entire time. You work for one act or one company for a few years, and then you have to start all over again, find a new job when that singing act breaks up or that TV show gets canceled. And out of the blue, the Walt Disney production reaches out and says, "Hey, how would you like to come work for us? We got all this music that needs to be written and arranged for EPCOT Center. And, on the other side of that, there's Tokyo Disneyland."
Ka-ching.
Well,
I mean, at that point in his life, a little job stability might sound like a good thing.
Oh, absolutely. But at the tender age of 45, Len, George Wilkins has to learn an entire new way of working. Think about it. Previously, when he'd been handed an assignment, George would be told, well, we need the musical underscore for a scene on a TV show that's 3 minutes long. Or this is an ad that's supposed to be 60 seconds long, and I need a jingle that fits the style and the length and the tone of this commercial. And whereas when you work for Imagineering, this is the information that George began getting at work in regard to work assignments. It's like, okay, so this scene is set in 1 BC. It's supposed to depict the world's first used car lot. The scene is 80
What would that sound like?
well, not only that, Len, but it's like, this scene is 80 feet long. The ride vehicle is moving at 1.5 feet a second. Go.
It sounds like the world's worst combination of band camp and music math questions.
No, that's it exactly. But not only that, when it came to EPCOT Center, well, it's not just writing the songs and the arrangements for the rides and the shows within World Showcase, but also the area music.
Oh, yeah.
And that was the thing going into this. Everything was supposed to be this cohesive whole that when you were in this park, you were supposed to be just overwhelmed by this optimistic vision of the future. And the music had to back up the overall look and the style of the park. So over the next 3 years of his life, George Wilkins wrote more music than he had ever written before in every possible style. There was just so much work to do, and every day was a different challenge. In fact, case in point, in fact, he's another story I love to tell. It's the big meeting with General Electric executives when it comes to signing off on the Horizons Pavilion. And the Sherman Brothers had written this wonderful theme song for the proposed World Showcase edition, to which George had written a funny, catchy arrangement. So the pitch meeting is coming to a close, and Wilkins plays his arrangement of the proposed theme song. The Sherman Brothers are written for Horizon, and everybody, including the General Electric executives, they love it. It's a done deal. Until Randy Bright, who's the Imagineering rep in charge of all of the creative on EPCOT Center, chimes in and said, nah, that song's not right for this project. And what's Bright's problem, Len? To his way of thinking, the song that the Sherman Brothers wrote for Horizons is too predictably Disney.
Okay.
All right, that it sounds like a song that a guest would expect to hear if they were visiting Disneyland Park out in California. And this is EPCOT Center in Florida. He felt like we need something bigger, grander, more hopeful. But Randy says, that's okay. George can fix this. You can write another song to go in its place, right? We'll need it for Monday for the next meeting.
We'll need it for Monday.
And this is Friday afternoon, all right? So
it's not like we need a demo track. We need something better than this by Monday.
By Monday. But George does what Randy asks. He goes home for the weekend and writes New Horizons, which he then plays for the first time in a conference room full of stern-faced General Electric executives who are feeling kind of jerked around at the moment, but at the same time almost begrudgingly admit, yeah, I guess that theme song would be a better fit for EPCOT Center than the one the Sherman Brothers wrote. But to hear George tell the story, the worst part of this was came after when he had to go back to work and tell Dick and Bob, well, that really charming theme song you wrote for the Horizons Pavilion, that just got rejected, and you'll never
you'll never guess what hack they got to do it.
There we go.
All right, let's listen to New Horizons here real quick.
So I want to especially take this moment out of this part of the show to throw it over to Len, who, of course, you have spent hours digging through the Buddy Baker archive over at NYU.
Yep.
You have a great in-depth knowledge of the music that was created for Epcot Center Phase 1. And do you have a particular favorite piece of music that George Wilkins either wrote or arranged for the park? Because me personally, I have kind of have trouble doing this because Wilkins wrote so much stuff.
Yeah.
Hours and hours and hours. And it's just so diverse in so many styles.
I mean, that's the thing. He could write for any pavilion, which is really a skill that few people have. We talked when we were doing the Buddy Baker show on how professionals are just different than you and me.
Oh, not totally.
And it's an example of that. So, stuff that George Wilkins did, Symphony of the Seed, over at the Land Pavilion. He did a lot of the background music there as well. Over at Universe of Energy, he actually did the Exxon exit music loop for that. In the old Communicore, we just talked about it in the service, but in the old Communicore, he did the Electronic Forum theme, and also I think the main background music for that. He did Imagination, One Little Spark, and all of the background music there. He did Test Track. He did the 1992 arrangement of Golden Dream from the American Adventure. All kinds of stuff, the Living Seas stuff, just incredible atmospheric music that really puts you in a specific place in Epcot, that it makes everything around it better, even if you don't recognize it to begin with.
Oh, no. You are not wrong. I mean, for example, one of my favorite pieces of music that he did, the entrance music to the park, what you'd hear out by Spaceship Earth, you'd pass the fountain. I mean, I would actually.
The Epcot entrance music background loop is a staple of playlists everywhere. Yeah,
there would be trips when I go to Florida where I would just sit there at the fountain and listen to that whole piece of music. It was so beautiful, so inspirational. But again, not to overstate the obvious here, but only a guy who'd spent 25 years working in the music industry, working for all those different acts and becoming familiar with all of those different styles, could have ever taken on this assignment and done what a George Wilkins did. Now, downside to this, of course, Len, is that a lot of the pieces of music that you and I just were talking about have been erased or deleted from the park over the past years, especially recently, what with Future World being broken up into World Discovery, World Nature, and World Celebration. I will say this much, though, and again, I always love to fold a little piece of Len's real life into the show. But what was kind of interesting is the original area music you were just talking about, The Land and Journey into Imagination, that hung on for decades in the bathroom.
In the bathrooms. Exactly.
For those attractions, because as Mr. Testa, who has lived through many very expensive household remodeling projects, will tell you, the very last thing you want to ever do is change anything that involves plumbing. So
don't change the plumbing. Yep.
So that was the thing. You got the music hung on there for a long, long time. And well, all right. Anyway, folks, we will take a look at the rest of George Wilkins' post-Epcot career on next week's show. But again, I just want to stress here, it's been almost 2 months now since we lost George. He passed away at the age of 90 on November 9th of last year, November 2024. Huge talent. But that said, we still enjoy so much of the music that he created for the Disney parks, even today, on many of the ride shows and attractions. And again, just not to put finer pointer in it, George only got his big break at the age of 45. So let's hear it for all us old stars out there. Because Buddy Baker got his bad break in 1979 as he cracked up his car on the Ventura Freeway and wound up in the hospital.
We'll close the show with some more George Wilkins music too.
Cool.
All right, folks, that's going to do it for the show today. You can help support our show by subscribing over at patreon.com/JimHillMedia, where we're posting exclusive shows every week. Our most recent show looks at how the Great Movie Ride set the stage for the extraterrestrial alien encounter. On next week's show, Jim continues the story of George Wilkins. And you can find more of Jim at jimhillmedia.com and more of me, Len, at touringplans.com. We're produced spectacularly by Eric Hersey and David Gray, who'll be guesting on Buzzin' and Corona and Lime when Swayze takes the stage at the Reggae Rise Up Arizona Festival 2025, April 4th through the 6th at Tempe Beach Park in beautiful downtown Tempe, Arizona. While Eric and David are doing that, please go into iTunes and rate our show and tell us what you'd like to hear next. For Jim, this is Len. We will see you on the next show.